Well, good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to Friday, day 2 of our AusCERT2017, or day 5, depending which way you look at it. Whether you went out last night and sampled the delights of the Gold Coast, or came to our formal dinner, or if you're here for the first time this morning, a warm welcome to you. I want to again acknowledge the Kumameri people, who are the traditional custodians of the land. I want to pay my respects to elders past and present and extend that respect to any Aboriginal people present with us today. Some of you are here for the first time, so I'll quickly run over the housekeeping again. In the unlikely event of an emergency, just follow the instructions of the well-trained staff. There'll be a public address announcement if we need to leave the venue, and we'll assemble at Acacia Avenue, southern side of the hotel. Bathrooms out that way, left and left again, marked on the walls. Keep your phones on, but please turn them to silent. Use AusCERT2017 for any social media that you're doing. Some of you were here yesterday, some of you here for the first time, so I won't repeat my hilarious non-smoking gag that was part of the housekeeping, but if you missed it and you want to hear it, I'll do it again for you during the break. Just stay around afterwards, because I'm needy like that. I'm really looking forward to our first presentation this morning. This gentleman came to the attention of the world at the age of 19 on the 4th of October 2005, when he had a little bit of fun and released the MySpace worm that in 20 hours picked up 1 million downloads, making Samy the fastest spreading virus of all time. Now, I think the vast bulk of us in the room thought that was awesome. The good people who administered the Patriot Act thought, you naughty, naughty boy. Let's find out about his story for the first time here in Australia to talk about the less hacked path, Samy Kamkar.
Thank you. Oh man, I'm so excited to be here. Thanks so much for having me, and thanks for waking up so early. Man, it's like 4 p.m. in LA, so I just woke up an hour ago, which is my normal schedule. So I wanted to share a little bit about how I got into hacking and technology, and what really kicked it off for me was basically when I was 10 years old. My mom spent every dollar she had to get me a computer. She knew I liked computers. She went out, and I had nothing to do during the summer, so she spent every dollar, got me this computer. And immediately I went on and I said, can I get the internet? She said, all right, sure, you can get the internet. So I get the internet. It's my first day on this computer. I go online and I start doing what we all do. I start searching for the X-Files. And I start finding all these websites about the X-Files. I'm like, this is awesome. And pretty quickly I start finding message boards. And now I'm on message boards and saying, hey, who wants to talk about the X-Files? And I'd post, and I'd hit refresh, and I'd hit refresh, and I'd hit refresh, waiting for someone to chat. So I'm like, there's got to be a faster way. And then I found something called IRC. So who's familiar with IRC? Internet Relay Chat. So I went on to IRC, and I found this is all in this one day that I got this computer. I'm so excited, and now I'm chatting like instantly with people. I'm like, hey, who wants to chat about the X-Files? I jump into the first chat room, and I say that, and someone says, get out. I said, what? No, I just want to chat about the X-Files. We can chat about another show if you prefer. And this guy says, you have 10 seconds to get out of this chat room. And I was like, okay, random person on the internet? No. And this is some guy, he doesn't know my name, he knows nothing about me. And 10 seconds later, this happened. And my brand new computer that my mom spent everything she had just got destroyed. And I had no idea what to do. Immediately I pulled the power out, and I just started like freaking out. I'm 10 years old. I wait about half an hour for all the bad stuff to get out of the computer. I plug it back in. I think that's enough time. And I turn it on, and it comes on, and everything is okay. And I'm like, oh my God, thank God. And while the adrenaline is just like pumping through my veins, I'm thinking, that was the coolest thing ever. How do I do that? So I go back on IRC. It's like, what did you do? How did you do that? And pretty soon, I learned that this guy used something called WinNuke 95. WinNuke was an awesome, back in my day, when you wanted to take down a system, you only needed one packet, not millions of machines and IP cameras, DOSing you. Today, you need distributed denial of service. Back then, it was one single packet would just take down a machine. And I downloaded this WinNuke 95, and all of a sudden, I had this magical power. It felt so good. Now, I'm not a malicious person. I don't want to shut down people's computers. But there is something really cool about having that capability. So at some point, Windows or Microsoft came out with Service Pack 2, and they resolved this problem. And I'm like, oh no, my magic power is gone. Like, it's totally gone. What do I do? So I open WinNuke 95, and I rate it, and it says WinNuke v95, and it's written by this guy, Burnt Bogus of the Den. I was like, how did Burnt Bogus of the Den create this? Maybe Sammy of the home can create his own WinNuke, right, for Service Pack 2. And I started learning, oh, it actually has to do with reverse engineering and understanding how your computer works and how the technology works and how the network works and if you can program. And a small combination of these different elements can allow you to actually create your own WinNuke, v96 if you want. So I continued playing with the computer. I started spending a lot of time learning new applications like Counter-Strike. And I remember playing Counter-Strike one day and seeing people, I was pointing at someone, and I remember that I heard footsteps. So I heard footsteps basically panning from my right speaker to my left speaker. And I didn't see them on the heads-up display. I didn't see them on my radar, which means they must be an enemy. And then simultaneously, I looked around. I didn't see anyone, so that must mean they're behind me. And I thought, well, if my computer knows that they're on the right, panning to the left, well, that means my computer must be receiving information from the person on the internet. And that's coming to my computer. So can I extract that information somehow from memory or from the network and then display it on my computer? And once I figured out what a packet sniffer was, and I could actually sniff packets and start extracting this information, then I learned about OpenGL, and I learned about programming and drawing, and I would just draw where they were on the screen. And then pretty quickly I learned, oh wow, once you're actually in the memory of Counter-Strike, you can do more than that. You can draw things, or you can like take away things, like making all walls transparent. So now I could just see through everything in Counter-Strike. And this became pretty fun. So pretty quickly I was stopped going to school. I was 15. This was a lot more fun than anything in high school. So I'm playing every day, and I'm writing new cheat codes. And now I'm releasing it all open source, so anyone can use my Counter-Strike cheats. And one day, someone comes and releases something called Punk Buster, and all of a sudden my cheats don't work anymore. And now Counter-Strike has become fun again. Because once you have a cheat, it's really fun for like a day or two, and then it gets pretty boring. But once someone stops it from working, then I now have engineers I can work against. And on a daily basis, instead of going to school, I got to play against these engineers. And my goal was to make new open source software that continued to work despite their Punk Buster software. So I'm going back and forth. And one day my mom's like, you need a job. She lost her job, and she said, okay, Sammy, you need to get a job. You can't just play video games all day. You're not going to school. However, she was always working, so she couldn't do too much about it. So I started going around. I went to Ralph's, I went to Starbucks. I went to like local markets and trying to get a job. And pretty quickly got an email saying, hey, I saw some of your open source cheats. Would you like a job programming? I was like, what? You can make money programming? Are you kidding me? Oh man, this is amazing. So pretty quickly I moved out. I was 15, and I found out that in the US you can't actually get a place when you're 15. So I started looking online. I don't know if we had Google, so I was probably on like Yahoo searching how do I rent my own place. And apparently if you get emancipated, you can then get your own place, and you can sign your own documents before you're 18. So getting emancipated is as if you're an adult. So I started looking into how do I get emancipated as soon as possible. But you have to go to court, and you have to get a judge to sign off. So I just fabricated some emancipation documents, printed it off my printer, signed a judge's name, and started using that. So pretty quickly I moved out, and I started playing around more and more with technology. And one day I came across a website. It was called MySpace. Who's heard of MySpace? Who's still on MySpace? Come on, Troy. So you all know MySpace. This was my profile. The cool thing about MySpace, it lets you really customize your profile. You can use any CSS and divs and awesome styles and music. And you can have friends. And I wanted to see what else I could do. Although it allowed me to do a lot of cool stuff, I wanted to do one simple thing. I wanted to see, can I change the relationship status from in a relationship to in a hot relationship? So normally you can only do single or in a relationship or divorced or whatever within their dropdown. I was like, maybe this is text, but no, it was an ID. It was an ID number that was getting sent to MySpace's servers whenever you're setting this dropdown. So I thought, okay, what else can I do to actually modify this? And pretty quickly I learned that if I can execute JavaScript on the page, then I would be able to modify this. Now, this was in 2005. This is the height of MySpace. It's the #1 site on the internet at this moment. And pretty quickly, I found that with CSS, there is a way to execute JavaScript. And once you have JavaScript on the page, you can actually modify contents of the page. So I launched some JavaScript, put it on my profile, and now whenever someone visits my profile, it would say, in a hot relationship. It's like, that's kind of neat. What else can I do? And I thought, well, what if they're not my friend? Could they add me as a friend? I mean, who doesn't love friends? So I added some new code. And now, if you'd visit my profile, it would also send me a friend request, and we become friends. How great. And around this time, something else came out. Who remembers MapQuest? MapQuest, you'd put in your source, you'd put in your destination, it would give you an address, it would give you directions. But if you wanted to zoom, you'd have to click a zoom button and the page would refresh. And then if you wanted to go to the right, the page would refresh. And if you wanted to go to the left, the page would refresh. And then this came out, 2005, Google Maps. It was the coolest thing ever because you could just scroll, you just drag and scroll seamlessly and no flash. They knew that flash was bad a long time ago. Pretty impressive. So I thought, oh, what is this technology? And they're using something called Ajax. So I thought, how can I use Ajax in my MySpace profile? That would be a cool thing to implement. And pretty soon, I realized I could use Ajax to do all of this stuff in the background. So when you visit my profile, you could add me as a friend in the background and not even know it's happening. You wouldn't get redirected. And what else could I do? At that point, because I have Ajax and I'm on the same domain, I can actually access the contents of your page. I can access your cookies. I can access any identifiers or hashes or CSRF tokens. And I can actually make you modify your page. So what should I do? Well, obviously, I should make it say, but most of all, Samy is my. I did not feel like I was doing any. I felt like, yeah, I was crossing some like really minor lines, but this was also 2005, right? This is, I don't know, this was a while ago. And back then, the internet was like, I felt like I was crossing lines when I would hack into a .gov so I could go onto IRC with a .gov IP address, because that just looks cool. I knew you're crossing the line, but we're teenagers. You kind of just did that kind of stuff. This, I felt like, was not a huge deal. At this point, I thought it was not a huge deal. I was like, all I'm doing is you're adding me as a friend on a social network that no one cares about.
Were you acting entirely in isolation? Did you know other people who were doing the same thing at all? Were you talking to anyone on social who was having their own sort of fun like that? And then we got back up.
Cool. Thank you for getting me back up. What's that? I didn't think I was. I'm sorry. What was the?
Were you acting in isolation? Did you know of other people who
Oh,
were doing any of this?
I had no idea if anyone else was doing this. It was all kind of a learning experience to me because I was just trying to learn JavaScript better. So yeah, I didn't think I was really crossing a terrible line. I felt like, yeah, it's probably like a little wrong, but not like terrible. I mean, you're adding me as a friend, and you're adding, but most of all, Samy is my hero to the bottom of your profile. I was like, that's kind of funny. So I thought, okay, what I'll do is I'll leave this up for a week, and I'll get a bunch of new friends, and I'll just show off to some of my tech friends. Like some of my nerdy tech friends will be like, oh, that's cool. So I wait a couple of days, and I have no new friends. I'm like, oh, man, OK. So I don't get enough people visiting my profile. So what can I do to make this spread a little faster so that maybe in a week or a month, I'll have like 6 new friends? So I think, OK, if I can make you add me as a friend, and I can make you add me as a hero, couldn't I copy the code from my profile to your profile? So that if someone visited your profile, they would add me as a friend and add me as a hero, and add the code to their profile. And that way, in a month, I probably would have 6 new friends, and that would be kind of cool. So I released this one night, and I go to sleep, and I see one person get added, and I was like, awesome, I got someone. I have 1 new friend. I went to sleep, and I wake up, and I'm thinking, do I have another 1 or 2? And I wake up to 10,000 new friends. And then I was like, oh, yeah, I crossed the line. Yeah, my bad. So I wake up, 10,000 new friends, and I'm like, oh, no. What do I do? I actually I felt awful at that point. I was like, did not expect that. I did not expect it to grow that quickly. So I'm like, maybe I should remove my profile. But unfortunately, it's like a cold, right? It's a virus. Just because you're cured doesn't mean anyone else that you sneezed on is. They all still have it. Pretty quickly, I called my girlfriend at the time. I was like, hey, do you want to get lunch? She's like, what's wrong? It's like, what? I just want to get lunch with you. I don't understand. Went to Chipotle. We got a burrito. It was delicious. I was like, this might be my last burrito. At that point, I had 20,000 new friends. And at this point, it's the next morning, and it's just doubling. And these are all people who are live and active on MySpace. You can't get it twice, right? You can only get it once. And if you remove it, so like let's say you see this picture of this guy and you remove him from your MySpace, it then refreshes back to your page, which re-executes the code, which re-adds me. So you just couldn't get rid of me. It's like a feature. And I just go through the day, and I have no idea what to do. So first, I'm like, OK, let me just email MySpace and say, hey, I won't even be me. So I pretend to be somebody else. And I say, hey, it looks like someone hacked my profile. This guy named Samy. It has this like weird obfuscated code. I had to obfuscate it because you can only fit so much code in the input that I was using. They had it server-side limited. So I had this hugely obfuscated like block of code. I'm like, I saw this code on my profile. I'm not quite sure what it does. I think it does something like detailed description of exactly what each line does. I think you can block it if you just block this one little thing. If you just block an eval, like that will end this whole thing. Good luck. So it's 20,000, 40,000, 80,000. Midway, we had lunch. I come back. It's 100,000 new friends. I'm at work. I'm at the office. I don't know what to do. I really have I can't do anything. I go to my profile and delete my profile. It won't really stop it, but at least it won't be a picture of me just staring at everyone. It's like, are you sure you want to delete your profile? It's like, yes. Are you sure? You can't undo this. I was like, yes. It's like, all right, your profile will be deleted in 24 hours. So they had some weird limit where, maybe if a hacker got in or something, you couldn't do it. So I drove home, and pretty quickly I'd had 900,000 new friends, 950,000 new friends, 1 million new friends. I took a screenshot. And now I'm just curious, how fast is it actually going? And someone documented this, and I'm refreshing. It's almost 3,000 new users per second. Just tells you how large MySpace was at that time in 2005. And now I'm refreshing just to see how fast it's growing. And now it says this profile has been taken down. I'm like, yes, they took it down. They've stopped it. So then I go to somebody else's profile to see what does it still say Samy is my hero now that they've taken down the worm? I said this profile is down. And then I went to myspace.com. The website is down. We're all here working on it. I look at my watch. It's like 8 p.m. And they're in LA. I'm in LA. And I feel awful, right? I feel absolutely terrible because I know what it's like to have a server that is down. It sucks. So I'm thinking, OK, they're close by. Should I just go with coffee and donuts? I'm sorry, guys. Can I help with some SQL queries or something? It's just a delete. And I thought, man, maybe I shouldn't go. I don't know if that's a bad idea. So I really just decided to do nothing. I just kind of sat at home and just kind of waited. And a day went by, and a week went by, and I started getting emails. And people I got an email from different online blogs, and people hey, we saw this worm that you wrote. I'm like, what are you talking about? And they're like, well, you're Samy, with one M in your name. I was like, sure, it's a not very common name, but there are other Samys in the world. They're like, this is a picture of you, right? I see a striking resemblance. People are selling Samy's My Hero t-shirts. Did you know that? I was like, oh, awesome. That would really help with my legal fund. And they're like, well, has MySpace contacted you? And I was like, no. I mean, actually, I got 1 million emails from every friend request, which I felt like was punishment enough. But MySpace never actually contacted me. And they're like, well, has anyone else contacted you? Has the FBI, the police, or anything? I was like, no. And a week went by, and 2 weeks went by, and a month goes by, and 3 months go by, and 6 months go by. I'm like, all right. I learned that I crossed the line. I shouldn't have done that. I'm super fortunate that I got away with it. I'm never doing that again. And at this point, my company's doing well. I bought a new car. I walk down to my car, and I see 2 guys standing next to my car. And I'm thinking, oh, man, I'm getting carjacked. And then 2 guys come up behind me, another 2. And then they say, Samy? And I'm like, carjackers don't know your name. They're like, Samy, we have a search warrant for your place. I was like, oh no. I was watching a lot of 24, and they always say, show me the search warrant. It's like, show me the search warrant. They're like, all right, we'll show you the search warrant. Which I don't know if that actually works, or if that's real, or if that's just what they say on TV. And they all showed me badges. So we had Secret Service, Electronic Crimes Task Force, the LA District Attorney, and the California Highway Patrol. Probably because of my sweet car. And for the first time ever, something in the movie Hackers was real. The dozen agents came to my home, busted down the door, had guns, simultaneously another dozen agents in my office. And now I'm not at my office at this moment. And they're like, what does Samy Kamkar have access to? The CEO, my co-founder, was like, everything. He's like, all right, guys, take everything. Of our cloud-based company. I was like, oh no. I don't know what the CEO did, but he somehow begged, pleaded, lied, told them I was an intern. I don't know what he did, but just got him to just take my computer. And then at my place, they went through everything. They went through my bed, they went through my closet, they went through my roommate's room, they went through everything. They took my CDs, DVDs, computer, laptop, phone, iPod, everything with data. And then they walked away. That was it. And they said, I'm like, free to go? They're like, yeah. I was like, okay. And I called an attorney, and pretty quickly we started talking, and MySpace didn't come after me. It was the LADA. It was a district attorney. So it was actually criminal, because it's illegal to write viruses or to have that many friends. So I was going back and forth for 6 months with the DA, and finally we came upon a plea agreement. And we said, basically, Samy Kamkar would have access to 0 computers, no internet, would pay a bunch of restitution, go to probation, and clean up trash on the side of the road, which felt terrible because it was 720 hours of Caltrans, just basically picking up trash, which felt like a lot more. And I agreed to this because it means that I would be able to come back to computers sometime in the future if I were on good behavior. And I said, okay, I will do that. This is under the Patriot Act. And at 19, I was not allowed to touch a computer. And I was like, all right, this is kind of a new chapter in my life. I have no high school diploma because Counter-Strike seemed a lot more important. Fortunately, I have a cool job, and I can just at least manage the engineering department rather than touching a computer. I can just be like, that code looks good. And I just went with that. And then 3 years later, without touching a computer, I went to court, and I said, hey, my probation officer says I'm her best client. And I was able to get back onto a computer. And I was like, awesome, this is great. So pretty quickly, I'm back on a computer. I felt super, super good. I got on a computer, and honestly, that 3 years with no computer use was awesome for me. Because I went from not knowing anything other than a computer, right, being on there from morning till night, to having to go out and be like, what is that light? And learning to socialize and go out and, I don't know, have friends, like real friends, not just .jpeg friends. And after I came back on, I thought, man, this stuff is so cool. Like, I still love technology, and I still love hacking, and I still want to hack stuff. Because to me, hacking is like a puzzle. It's like, who's done a puzzle before? Just any kind of puzzle. They're fun. They're really fun to accomplish. But the thing with hacking is someone created a puzzle that was not intended to be solved. It was a maze with no exit points, and you're still able to get on the other side. So it's even more satisfying than a normal puzzle. So pretty soon, I came back online, and I thought, OK, what can I do to still hack stuff, but not cross that line so much? And I thought, OK, what if I bought my own devices and hacked those? Maybe I can do that, and maybe I can share some really cool information with other people. So one day, Amazon comes out and says they're going to start using drones. I'm like, ooh, drones, that's cool. So I went out, and I bought the most ubiquitous consumer drone at the time, is a Parrot AR drone. And I thought, this is really cool that Amazon wants to use drones, and more people are using drones, because it's this really cool technology at a very low cost. I wonder if we can do something cool. So I started inspecting the security, and I couldn't find anything to inspect. So pretty quickly, I designed something called Skyjack. It's very simple. It's a Raspberry Pi computer and some open source software that I put on there. And you fly around your customized drone. And as it's flying around, it's looking for it's wirelessly detecting the signal of any other drones, and simultaneously taking over those drones and producing a swarm of zombie drones under your control. At least this is open source. And pretty soon, we had a couple more drones that started adding security. And another thing that's super interesting to me is information and privacy that we actually put out there. MIT created a really cool proof of concept where they would tell you your sexuality, whether you were straight or gay, based off your Facebook profile, even if you didn't list your sexuality. Just based off other information, based off your friends, based off what you said. This is information that we're actually putting out there. And then other websites that would just like, I just love, like Please Rob Me. When you go to Please Rob Me, it's scouring Facebook and Foursquare and Twitter to say, oh, Samy just said he left Los Angeles to visit Australia. Go rob him. He's not home right now. It's going to take him half a day to get back. So information that we're just putting out there about ourselves and how you can track people, I think is so interesting. This is Matt Honan. He's an editor at Wired, and he woke up with his digital life just destroyed one day. Someone had hacked into his Amazon account. Like Amazon, you can't really do much. You can order some books for him or something. They went into the billing section, and they saw the last 4 digits of his credit card number. And then these hackers called Apple, and they're like, hey, I can't get into my Apple iCloud. And they're like, OK, well, we'll help you, Mr. Honan. What's the last 4 digits of your credit card number? And they revealed the last 4 digits of the credit card number taken from Amazon, and then Apple gave them access to the iCloud. They got into iCloud, they changed all their passwords, got into their Gmail, logged into their Twitter, deleted his MacBook Pro, deleted everything off of his iPhone, off of his iPad, deleted all backups. He woke up with absolutely nothing except for his Twitter spewing racial slurs. Just from 4 digits, 4 numbers that were available. Does anyone know who this is? This is John Mcafee. Anyone still use Mcafee? So John Mcafee, pretty recently, was on the lam. He was wanted in connection to a murder that was happening near his home. Next door to him, actually, in, I believe, Central America. And pretty soon, he had Vice basically running around with him. So Vice was writing up the fact that they were on the lam with John Mcafee and writing about the details, and they took a picture. And they uploaded the picture to Vice and forgot one thing, the EXIF information with the GPS coordinates. He was captured 2 days later, just from a picture. Right? Every time we take a picture, we're adding so much information, and we're just uploading it. Right? We don't even think about, we uploaded our exact GPS coordinates to this information. I've created a simple app. It no longer works now that some Twitter and Facebook actually remove this information. But essentially, you would just put in a username of someone on a network, and it would scour all of their photos, extract their GPS, and then give you a timeline that you could scroll through and just see how they're moving around. Another thing I think is super cool is geolocation. So who's used the browser feature of geolocation where you go into maybe Google Maps and it says, do you want to allow your browser to share its location? We'll see that little pop-up in your browser. Well, I remember when Firefox came out with a beta version and they had this geolocation feature. It's like, what is geolocation? How are they doing this? And I started looking into it. And essentially, the way it works is Firefox, or any browser now, will take all of the MAC addresses of all the wireless routers, and it will send it to Google. And then Google will return your coordinates. And the coordinates were super accurate. They're like Jack Bauer level accuracy. I'm thinking, how did they do this? How were they able to actually figure out where you are? And now they're sending these routers addresses, and I started looking, and I couldn't find any documentation about how Google knows where you are based off router MAC addresses. And then I realized, oh, Street View cars. Google Street View cars are driving around taking pictures, but simultaneously they're tracking GPS coordinate. And if they see a wireless router, doesn't matter if it's encrypted or not, the unique MAC address is always identifiable. So they're taking that and correlating it with your GPS coordinates. So if you send Google your MAC address, or your router's MAC address, they know exactly where you are. And if you send all the MAC addresses and the signal strengths of all the networks around you, which is what your browser does, it will know, even with higher accuracy, where you are. So I thought, that's really interesting. And I started talking about this and created a demonstration and proof of concept where you could visit my website, and it would show you where you were. And I was in Slovakia, and they said, well, that's really interesting, but that doesn't work here. You can't know, Google Street View cars are illegal. They actually can't drive around here. So we tried it, and Google still knew exactly where we were. I was like, what? How did they do that? And I was thinking, like, what else does Google have everywhere? Phones. Android devices. So I was like, it can't be. They're not like tracking us. So I downloaded Android, and I started going through all the source code to find anything that was using GPS and that was sending information up, and it wasn't. So I was like, all right, they can't be doing it. It must be something else. And I just started thinking, and I just could not find any other way that Google could do this. So then I started sniffing packets, and I saw packets that did not make sense. These didn't correlate to anything that I was seeing in the source code. And apparently there was binary blobs that wasn't part of Android that were shipping on all Android phones that did send your location. It's everywhere you went, at all times, and how fast you're moving. And then I started sniffing iPhone and jailbroken iPhone. And then I found a Microsoft phone. And I found all 3 devices are constantly sending exactly where you are. And essentially, they've become war-driving machines. Not only are they seeing where you are, but they're seeing where every wireless network around you is. So they're taking all the unique hardware addresses. So even if you don't have a smartphone, if you still have a flip phone, or even worse, a BlackBerry, they're still taking all your wireless network. So if you have a wireless network, they're taking that MAC address and sending it along with the signal strength and the GPS location of the phone. So I'm like, this is absolutely crazy. And what's even more nuts is on iPhone and Microsoft, if you disable location services, it continues to send where you are. It just disables it for your apps. So when you want to use Maps or Yelp, you can't use it. But they still know exactly where you are. It was absolutely crazy. They're actually lying to consumers. Like, all right, how can we display this in a really fun way? Now, granted, I actually love these companies, right? I use their technology every day. I use Microsoft, I use Google, I use Apple. But at some point, you can't lie to consumers, right? That's when you're crossing a line, and that needs to get balanced out. I was thinking, how can we actually just demonstrate this in a cool way? So as I was looking through this, I found that you can actually do something pretty cool. The way Google Maps works is that the traffic is crowdsourced. So actually, all of this information is feeding into Google Maps traffic. So I thought, okay, why don't I make an app that anyone can use? And I created essentially a Google Maps app where you'd go into your app on your phone and you say, I'm at this location right now, and I'd like to drive to this location. And it would give you directions, just like Google Maps. However, simultaneously, it would send thousands and thousands of fake Android requests to Google saying we're all different phones, and we're all moving 0 miles per hour on this one route, which would then make your route red and black for every other person, and they would all get diverted onto other routes, making your route entirely clear. They blocked this pretty quickly afterwards. But it was a fun way to basically demonstrate this sort of thing. So I'd like to share a couple of other cool research that I've seen other people do. This is a quote I really like from Major Malfunction. In my experience, once data becomes invisible, something magical happens. They forget about security. I think this is so true. The less we see something, the less we care about the security, or the more we assume it is secure. Tempest is an interesting attack devised by the NSA many years ago, I believe from the 60s, where essentially electromagnetic radiation from a CRT, a big fat CRT monitor, can be seen from the room next door. And you can actually extract that information and then see what's on that CRT monitor. So hackers and researchers have worked on some really cool stuff since then. Here's an example where a group, Inverse Path, they were able to basically take a laser pointer, shine it off of a reflective surface like the back of a laptop. And when they would read the reflection, they could take the unique vibration that was occurring and read off keystrokes that were coming off the laptop. Now, you don't know what keystrokes. All you have are unique mechanical vibrations of every key on the keyboard. However, with key frequency, you know the space bar, assuming they're typing in English language, for example, they're going to hit space more than anything else. So you see the number one key that gets hit is space. So you just make that assumption. Now you know that unique vibration is a space bar. And then from there, you see 2-letter words. You're like, OK, there are only so many 2-letter words that are commonly used. And you can start doing frequency analysis. Within about 200 keystrokes, you know exactly what they're typing. This is a cool example. It was mentioned to me yesterday, too. The FLIR camera. It's an infrared camera where you can just go to someone right after they type in their ATM pin and just read the thermal signature. Because they're going to leave a heat signature on the pin pad when they're typing in their PIN, and you can just read that with a quick picture off your phone with a $200 FLIR camera. Criminals have done some cool stuff where they've actually they've taken chip and PIN, and they were able to manipulate it by adding a second chip card on top. So when they would go to a store, they would have a stolen card. They don't know the PIN number. They put their chip on top, And now, when they put the chip card in and ask for the PIN number, they enter the PIN number for their card. And when the PIN gets verified, it then continues the transaction by passing it through to the next card, which is someone else's, and completing the transaction. I was interested in mag stripes because in the US, we still use mag stripes. It's absolutely crazy. And in fact, we don't have pins. We only have chip. Only recently have we added chip. So I was curious how mag stripes actually worked. And so I was wondering, are they actually magnetic? So I took my credit card and I put it in a bag of black iron oxide filings. And yes, they're actually magnetic. So you can actually read the bits with the naked eye just by putting it in iron oxide filings. So I started reading these bits off my credit card and I was like, what are these bits? And I started learning that, oh, these bits not only have my credit card number, my expiration, my name, and other information, there's a service code too that says whether the card has a chip on it or not. Now, in my case, my card had a chip. So I created a device called MagSpoof to see, can I actually make a transaction with my own credit card even if I don't have my physical credit card? And pretty quickly, I found out that when I would go to a transaction, when I go to a point of sale system, it would say, oh, you need your chip. So it didn't work. But then, after looking further, I found that the service code itself on the magnetic stripe says whether the credit card has a chip or not. It's a bit. So I turned that bit off. And I said, oh, this card does not have a chip. And here's an example of using it. So it actually produces an electromagnetic force. This is not NFC, this is not RFID. It's actually producing magnetism. And the device, the point of sale system, believes you're swiping your credit card. And when it reads the service code from the magnetism, it says there is no chip. So go ahead and accept this mag stripe. So you can now take a chip card, disable the chip, and then go and basically use it. That's our US financial security system. It's pretty great. So I'm really excited. I think the next thing that's coming out, the next thing that are really exciting me are the physical-based side channel attacks. They're super exciting to me for a couple of reasons. One, they're super low cost. Most of the attacks are a few $100s in cost or use devices that we all already have, like a mobile device. Berkeley used a microphone to track acoustic emanations from keyboard keystrokes. So similar to the laser pointer, instead of using the mechanical vibration of the light, they're using the sound. Because each sound, each key you hit on your keyboard will produce a unique sound. And again, with 200 keystrokes, they can start figuring out what you're saying. There have been backdoor apps where if an app is running in the background, it could still use your IMU or accelerometer and gyroscope and know exactly what you're typing. So if you're typing an email or typing a PIN, it would be able to track that. University of Tel Aviv has done so much really cool stuff with side channels and physics-based attacks with low-cost tools. In this case, they were using acoustical intelligence. They're actually using the sound that the capacitors and resistors and processor on your laptop would make when encrypting an email via PGP. And they're able to extract a 4096-bit RSA key when you're encrypting an email just by the sounds that your computer makes. They're inaudible to the human ear. Because all microphones on smartphones are capable of hearing ultrasound, which humans are not. However, when you're encrypting an email via RSA, the software path takes, if you're encrypting with a 1-bit versus 0-bit, the path is different. It will use a different amount of power, and that different amount of power will make a different unique sonic signature from the capacitors nearby. So with the phone, you are now stealing keys in the same room. There are absolutely other terrifying attacks. If you have a plug, you can plug into the ground line, and if there's a keyboard nearby, a desktop keyboard, it will leak information about the keystrokes onto the ground line, and from another power outlet, you can connect into the ground and pick up those keystrokes. If you see this bag of chips, run. You should be terrified. MIT was able to take a bag of chips, potato chips, put it in a soundproof room with a soundproof glass barrier, and then use a standard DSLR camera to look inside that room through the soundproof glass, record the vibrations, because sound is just vibration of air. It would hit the bag of potato chips. The bag of potato chips would move at the slightest variation. Human eye couldn't pick it up, a DSLR camera can. They took the video, converted that frequency of variation to frequency of sound, and then played back the sound in this soundproof room. From air. Absolutely nuts. This is the stuff that's super exciting to me. E-cigarettes are harmful. Don't buy e-cigarettes from eBay. I mean, we have so many new devices. We have IoT devices that are just, full of default passwords and terrible firmware and non-updating. This is an IME. This is a really cool device for texting that Mattel made for children. But it actually has a really cool chip inside. It's a sub-gigahertz transceiver. Pretty quickly, I found that you can actually use it to open any garage in under 10 seconds. The amount of technology and lack of security that we have in everything is, I'm so excited by the fact that everything is becoming so low cost, but we're just starting to forget about security. So I hope as all of you look into security and look into attacks, you share some of this stuff with us. I'm super excited to be part of this community. I don't want to leave you hanging. I do want to obviously give you at least one good tip for adding security to anything. It's very simple. A little bit of tinfoil goes a long way. And as you guys are working on new things, please continue sharing. Thanks for letting me be part of your community. I hope to hear about the new tools, the new attacks, and the new security techniques you guys are using. And if there's anything else, that's it. Thank you so much for having me. Awesome. Thank you.
Congratulations.
All right. Thank you.
You would have seen, Sammy, yesterday that our speakers are receiving the AusCERT certified chopping board.
Yes,
so have that.
awesome.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Absolutely unhackable. Give him another round of applause. That was just wonderful, Sammy. That was a fantastic
Thanks.
presentation.